This week presents us with a lot of unique opportunities to change. And what has changed? It's not keeping things stable. It is going back and going into reflection and meditating on what the changes that you need to make are. And being willing to make these changes, being agnostic and real about these changes. Because when you turn inward, you find a sense of automatism. You find that je ne sais quoi of the need to transform something readily into your life. And when you do this, you'll find so much peace at the very end of the tunnel. And that's one of the invitations that this week's astrology offers us. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the astrology of August 31st through September 6th, the day before the total lunar eclipse in Pisces. I'll be here to talk about that when we get there next week. But this week gives us Uranus going retrograde, Mars square Jupiter. We have a first quarter moon in Sagittarius, and we have Mercury, the planet of communication, entering the methodical and the meticulous sign of Virgo. So a lot is happening this week. So I want to talk about that here right now. Okay, starting up on September 1st. The only thing I forgot to mention is something very, very significant because the first event going on is Saturn, the planet of structure and discipline and time, moving back into Pisces, the sign of escapism and addiction, but also spiritual compassion. And so Saturn retrograding back into Pisces will go back all the way to 25 degrees of Pisces when it stations direct on November 27th. So keep in mind that Saturn went retrograde around July 13th of this year, and it's going to stay retrograde until November 27th. Saturn is completing its retrograde in Aries and it's moving back into Pisces. This is finishing up not only this transit of Saturn in Pisces, but a whole 29 years worth of sign karma. It's completing a cycle and we're moving into a new cycle. It's like you're sitting on a dock and there's something going on, and then all of a sudden there's fireworks. The fireworks will be the Saturn Neptune conjunction in Aries on 2/20/26. You want to mark that date down in your calendars because that is really, really significant as that begins a brand new Saturn Neptune cycle. So, Saturn retrograding back into Pisces brings about karmic endings, things coming to a completion, things coming to a closure. We're wrapping things up. We're tying up loose ends. Where we have new clarity, a newfound advancement, a newfound impediment that we did not have um, during the transit of Saturn and Pisces from 2023 to 2025. We're getting clarity now. We have the opportunity to really gain clarity and mastery over all the lessons that Saturn and Pisces has taught us about dreaming big, manifesting your dreams, and having healthy boundaries. So, what can happen during this retrograde is that the boundaries that we have full throttle auto home flop, meaning that they stop, the trail's gone cold, the buck stops here, but they break the boundaries. And so a lot of people will be having healthy boundaries, but they're breaking them. They're dissolving into oneness of the mass and all that is. They're dissolving into the spectrum and the spectral of life. When they are in the right motion picture to do so. That's what you want to keep in mind. So we can find that our boundaries are broken and we're more into the oneness, we're merging with others, that kind of thing. It's not the best time for trusting our intuition because we will mistake fear and raw emotions that are unprocessed and things that your intuition may be telling you to react to something suddenly in an emotional way. But that's not your intuition. You get it confused with something else. And so when you don't trust your intuition, when you don't trust your gut, you end up regretting it. That's very, very true. You don't listen to the inner voice, and everybody has done that. Everybody has ignored their intuition, ignored their inner voice in some way in their lives, and they have done something that they tremendously regret. My regret that I have, that I am living with, that I have done the work to get over, but it's still kind of prevalent in my life and probably always will be, is deleting videos and channel surfing. That seems very, very trivial of a thing to feel guilty about. But you don't understand how that feels because you're not in my shoes, you're not in my mind and my flesh and body. That's saying that you don't know how it feels if your sense of abundance and curiosity is tainted and tampered with. And so on the outside, it may not seem like a big deal, but don't dismiss those things that other people feel guilty about as not a big deal because you don't know how they're feeling. You're not in their body. You're not living their life. So you don't know. And it's best to have compassion and empathize as best you can. So it may be very difficult to trust your intuition, but we need to do the best of trusting the inner voice of what to do, where to go. It's very, very important that we set healthy limits and boundaries in partnerships. Because if we don't set these boundaries, we end up pencilating it. We end up thrashing it. We find that our sticks in the weeds are sort of melding about all over the place. And so when we trust our limits and boundaries and we form healthy limits and boundaries in partnerships, we retain our self-respect, we retain our self-discipline, we retain our self-love. That is, and self-trust. I should mention that also. We're not breaking agreements to ourselves. We're not breaking trust to ourselves when it comes to what we need to make clear in terms of our boundaries. If you are a victim and if your power has been stripped from you, and you're feeling like I am powerless, I can't change the situation, yes, you can. That is a limiting belief and a limiting state of being. Get out of that state of being, rise to your eagle's perch, meditate, do whatever you need to do to get back into your power. Another really, really key theme here is to just treat yourself. When was the last time you did something nice for yourself, that you loved and cared about yourself? Bought yourself flowers or chocolates, or a new book you're interested in, or a movie that you want to watch, or spending time with the people that you want to spend time with and avoiding those who drain your energy. All these kind of things. So spend your time the way that is valuable for you to spend your time as best you can. How are you willing? And what are your dreams that you aspire to manifest, that you aspire to create? And are you willing to create these dreams? Because if you're willing, you can strata the baddest. You can get the gold in the picture. You can create that pine in the pine shoe parade. You're really doing all these things very selectively, very electically to make or shift, basically. Saturn is currently retrograde. During retrogrades, we go inward, we reflect, we go within. pause and reflect on our commitments, on our goals, on our boundaries. And so we need to reflect on the experiences we have gone through and the lessons and insights that we have learned through our experiences through Saturn and Pisces, going all the way back to March 7th of 2023. That's when Saturn entered Pisces, and it stayed there until May 25th of this year. On May 25th, it entered Aries for the first time in 29 years. And it's going to move back into Aries February 13th next year. So you want to keep that in mind. Just before Valentine's Day, several days away from that big Saturn Neptune conjunction that we're going to be having. Now, just like we check our hair, our teeth, did we shave? Did we comb our hair? We need to treat the same procedures and the same criticalness to our energy. How is our energy? Is it uplifting? Is it high vibrational? Is it positive? Is it filled with joy? Or is it in the doldrums? Is it in depression? Is it down? Is it stoic? We need to check our energy. We need to evaluate if that energy is in alignment with our principles and beliefs. Is our energy very high frequency or is it in the lower vibrations? And if it's in the lower vibrations, back up the bus, stop, turn around, and do what makes you feel emotionally content. Do what raises your vibration. Now, this transit could also find us reevaluating our relationship with the divine and with imagination. So blending the worlds, blending, channeling things that we're imagining from the divine into physical, tangible action. Saturn demands that we manifest things. If you are so inclined to have a spiritual or creative practice, this is time to get serious about it. This is a time to have a discipline and a structure and a set practice. That's something that you're devoted to, something you're committed to in terms of a spiritual practice. I've tried a spiritual practice, but it really doesn't work for me because I'm not always in the mood to pull cards, pull oracle cards, because I might not be open to guidance at that time. And I believe that if you meditate when you need or want to do something very, very badly, that you're procrastinating when you meditate. So that is why spiritual practices do not work for me, but they may work for others. I do wish I was in that state of being every single day to want to do the spiritual practices, but just that's not the reality. So I'm not going to do something that I don't feel like doing. But if you feel that it is right to have a spiritual practice, not that you ought to, by others, by the videos you watch, by the people in your life, if you feel like it's right for you, then do it. Then commit to that spiritual practice. Um, Now Saturn demands patience. Saturn demands, especially in Aries, that puts the brakes on the car. Aries wants instant gratification. Saturn is delayed gratification. So you can see the very, very different flavors of these energies. And so Saturn demands patience. Saturn demands allowing things to happen, putting one foot in front of the other and being willing to be in it for the long game. And do what feels truly right to you, as I said earlier. Do what nourishes you on a mind, body, spirit level. And is it in alignment with who you are becoming? Now, when Saturn goes direct on November 27th, we have gone through this whole process of evaluating and reevaluating all of these Piscean themes. And when Saturn goes direct, stations direct, we have new clarity, we have new omnivalence, we have new ambivalence, we have new pine pines. That's what we have. We have new Annette pines. And it gives us the opportunity to move forward and to really make the solid boundaries that we need to make. Establish those boundaries, being firm, but being loving about those boundaries. So we're going to be having this deep alignment with ourselves when Saturn goes direct. That's definitely on the table for us. We need to focus on reevaluating our top priorities and values. What are those? Make a list and live in alignment with those things. This may give you the wonderful opportunity to see things from different viewpoints, to see things through different outlets, to consider somebody else's way of looking at the world and see it through their eyes. You may feel like rebelling against authority. You may feel like you want to be a rebel against anyone who confines you, limits you, constrains you, demeans you. And when you break out of that mold, you find great freedom that's going to really, really set you up for February when Saturn moves into Aries. What are the healthy energies to have in your life? And what energies do you need to let go of? What beliefs do you need to let go of? And how do you protect and preserve yourself? Consider that also. On September 2nd, we have a couple of things occurring this day, and that the first is that Jupiter in Cancer will join the North Node at 18 degrees of Pisces. Now, Jupiter is currently entering the territory that the previous Mars retrograde was in from January 6th of this year, ending on February 23rd when Mars stationed direct, and ending on April 17th, which the next day Mars entered Leo again. So it's recrossing the territory from 17 degrees to 29 degrees of Cancer. So we have more optimism, we have more expansion. We're viewing it in a much more positive way, really seeing I don't want to say the potentials because it's in past tense, but the opportunities that we've had to really grow and to really practice the serenity prayer during that Mars retrograde. So Jupiter trining the North Node right now. We may have done good deeds and now they're paying off for us. We may have opened the door for somebody that paid off. We may have supported somebody in some way that pays off. It's good to align this energy to deep growth and spirituality. Expansion is on the table for us now, expanding our mind, expanding our heart. We can take things for granted. Trines are aspects which are very positive, and there's a great ease with trines, but we're lazy when it comes to trines. We may take our blessings for granted. We may not understand what true happiness is because true happiness is not without sadness, despair. Um, we can't have happiness without the opposite, without something very different, without recognizing how different that feels as opposed to it being happiness. That's really, really important to keep in mind. So count our blessings, count all the things that you are thankful for in your life right now. Count those blessings. Don't take it for granted because Jupiter brings the blessings, or Jupiter shines light on all of the abundance that you currently have in your life. So this is a great opportunity just to take stock of all of that abundance that you have going on in your life. So you may really recognize and see very clearly the success in your life, the wins in your life. This may be very easy to recognize. You may have career changes or new opportunities in career. There may be, and it's good to provide growth and healing to society in whatever way you can think to do so. Now, also on September 2nd, Mercury enters Virgo, and it's going to be here until September 18th. So, Mercury in Virgo. Mercury is at home in Virgo. It is at domicile in Virgo. Now, I happened to read something that said Mercury was exalted in Virgo. That's not true. A planet in its sign of domicile is not the same as it being exalted. Those are two different placements, two different signs. The real truth of the matter, Mercury is exalted in Aquarius because Aquarius is very intelligent, thinking beyond its time, thinks of innovative, creative ideas, thinks of the good of humanity. It's higher thinking. But Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. That's why Mercury is exalted in Aquarius, not in Virgo. So if you ever read that or hear that, it's not right. It's just not right. Mercury is domicile in Virgo, not exalted. I want to make that loud and clear. Getting to what this is all about. Our thoughts become very precise. Our thoughts become very detail oriented. We're focused on the details during this time. Virgo is all about the details. An astrologer that I was watching described Virgo as the proof is in the pudding energy. Now, with this energy, we're being very discerning, we're being very discriminating of what information and knowledge that we need to keep, what is useful, and what do we need to let go, what is unuseful. It's both and. Both getting into the nitty-gritty, getting into the details, delving into that in-depth look at the situation, but also stepping back to gain a higher, big picture focus. Both are equally valid. Both are equally important. We need to have both. We can't have one without the other. So that's very, very important for us at this time. So focus on the small little details that you need fixing and changing, and focus on the bigger vision as well. So don't lose sight of the bigger perspective. Do not get too bogged down in the details. Now, Virgo can be very rational, very logical, but it can be kind of detached. It's the air earth sign because Virgo is very intellectual. It's earth, but with air, in it. And air can be pretty detached as an element. It can be pretty left-brained. Not necessarily Avalon bike rack left brain. That's super dated last century. Play a little tune, bucks an hour. So anyway, we need to be very, very mindful of not coming across as overly coldly factual, too caught in the facts, that we don't become critical or unimaginative. We need to be mindful of not being overly judgmental, overly hard on others and on ourselves. Virgo is all about the function of things, the use in things. They want things to be very functional. They're always looking for that. This is good for analysis of any kind, higher order thinking of any kind. System needs to be analyzed very critically and carefully. This is great energy for that. We want the facts. We want the facts with Mercury and Virgo. We're very focused and concerned on those objective facts. Now, our minds are very, very sharp with Mercury and Virgo. Our minds are very, very active. we have good recall, we have good learning skills, and we can communicate and think in very efficient ways. So, Mercury and Virgo is really, really good about not beating around the bush, getting right to the point, getting right to what's important to know about this detail, not meandering and going off on this tangent and getting off the beaten track and going off the point. Mercury and Virgo is very cut and dry, to the point. And so, what information is unnecessary? We need to get rid of that at this time. This is good for being productive. This is good for making progress in any endeavor that you wish to make progress on in your life. The focus is more on details and useful information. Discernment is a really, really wonderful quality with this position. Discerning what is right for us, what is not right for us, what is useful, what is not useful, that kind of thing. Having healthy discrimination, but not to the point where we're being overly harsh or judgmental on ourselves and others. Now, September 3rd, Mercury at 1 degree of Virgo, squaring Uranus at 1 degree of Gemini. This is wacky, wild energy. So, this energy of Mercury in hard aspect to Uranus could make you feel like the world is speeding up. The world is moving very, very fast, kind of like the stag. So the symbolism of the stag, the spirit animal of the stag represents the fast pace of life and how we flow with that, or how we live in that fast-paced life. That's what the stag has to do with in spirituality, in terms of that kind of modulation and namifications. So, um, we're being sort of trained into um, understanding that the world is very fast paced. We may be rushing around, we may be being very excitable, very energetic. So it's very important to calm down, ground yourself, meditate, do whatever you need to do. Avoid the caffeine at this time. It's very, very good to avoid drinking caffeinated coffee or a lot of caffeinated coffee or, energy drinks that, boost you up because of the way you're wild and ungrounded. So do what grounds you, do what centers you, do what makes you feel at peace and calm. There could be misunderstandings and miscommunications during this time. It's kind of like Mercury retrograde. But these kind of things could lead to arguments. That could very, very easily be the case at this time. However, this energy of Mercury square Uranus is excellent for seeking and gaining new perspectives on various things in your life, from your inheritances, from your prisons, from your hospitals, to your networking plans. Whatever the area of life is, whatever area of life is on the 12 areas of life, you're able to gain new perspectives, new viewpoints on those types of areas. Now, the key with this is to follow one of the cards in Call Baron Reid's Wisdom of the Oracle deck, which I have and absolutely love using. It's super accurate. The card is Be Flexible, or I think Flexibility. I think it's called, maybe it's either Be Flexible, Flexible, or Flexibility, one or the other. But, this is very, very true. Being very open-minded and willing to go with the changes, because with the square, we may find a lot of people or ourselves being very resistant to change. But we need to go with the flow of life, go with the change, go with that Pisces North Node of flowing in life, trusting the universe, surrendering our plans, because when we make plans, God laughs. That's what we're being invited to trust in that wisdom and love of the universe during these next 18 months, all the way up until July 26th of next year. And then the rebirth of science and the rebirth of astrology and all things metaphysical and scientific emerges when that North Node moves back into Aquarius at 29 degrees. So, anyway, more on that when we navigate to the middle of next year. Um, and so this could bring about anticipation and excitement as you perceive sudden change. So that's very, very possible. Um, so that is definitely stalking and the blocking. So you may like to shock those around you with new insights, with new flashes of knowledge. This is good for breaking tradition and conventionality. That's very much, Uranus is wanting to break the mold of what is the status quo of life in general. Now, offending others or being offended by others is more likely at this time. If you try to make a point, very, very clearly, others might miss the point. Others might gloss over that point. Others might not see the point that you're trying to make very clearly. There could also be a lot of electronic accidents that could happen at this time. So being mindful of that is very, very important. Now, as we navigate further till September 4th, we're traveling during this day under the influence of Mars square Jupiter. So malefic square benefic. And Mars square Jupiter can bring about a heightened sense of optimism, but where we are overly, I think the word haughty, overzealous, self-righteous, self-centered, where we overpromise and we overwork ourselves and we overshoot ourselves to the point where we shoot ourselves in the foot. We have such a strong energy and motivation, but it can hurt ourselves or it can hurt our relationships. Because when we become overly optimistic and overly proud of ourselves, we miss the opportunities to remain humble and realistic, to focus on do things, focus on what you can do, not these big grand visions for, oh, I'm going to lose weight in X amount of days when that's not possible, you know. So we need to really, really be mindful of being very, very, you know, reasonable about stuff. So it's not a good idea to go on the offense, go on the attack. It's very, very important to consider which battles are petty, which battles are truly important, truly worth fighting for, which evoke a very, very strong pull and a feeling towards you to want to fight that battle. But also recognizing when you're going to all that time and energy into fighting that battle, and you won't get the results, you won't get the change, you won't get the fix from that battle in the end. Um, where it could turn into manipulations of wanting something, for example, and begging that person to give you something that they're not going to give because they don't have the money or, whatever the reason might be. So, what are the necessary changes that you need to make? What are those changes? Now's the time to take action on those changes. Um, and be very, very mindful. Think things over. Look through the details. Don't make hasty, fast, impulsive decisions that may result in injuries or accidents. There could be an indication of may wanting to change careers at this time. You may also, with this transit, have more assertive qualities, assertive potential to confront those that limit you and speak your truth. Speak your truth. It's very, very important this time. Is to really, really be honest and express yourself, not just to express yourself, but to have something be either changed or fixed. Get your way as best you can. Now, September 5th, the big event going on this day is that Uranus goes retrograde at 1 degree of Gemini. It's going to go back into Taurus on November 8th. Then it's going to station direct in Taurus at 19 degrees on February 4th. Then April 25th, 26th of next year, Uranus moves into Gemini full time, where it's going to stay for 7 years, 7 to 8 years. So, um, Uranus retrograde. What does this mean? So it's stationing retrograde at 1 degree of Gemini. So Uranus has been in Taurus, for example, since May of 2018. And so I'm going to talk more specifically in depth about the Uranus retrograde in Taurus. When we get there, I'm going to give you a few hints and explanation as to what that's about. I may not give it when we get to November 8th because I may give it away here, but I'm not going to repeat everything I say in this video on a future video. So I might as well talk about it because it's this current retrograde cycle. So the Uranus retrograde, the revolution and innovation and the invention that we need to make is on an inward level. It's not external, it's not outward. We are discovering new truths inside of us. We're discovering what inner patterns and beliefs is holding me back. What do I need to liberate myself of that comes from inner work? There may be certain stable foundations that we have set for ourselves in our life that may crumble. Now, Uranus retrograde in Gemini puts the focus on our beliefs and identities, and are they limiting us or are they liberating us? This may give a lightning bolt of awareness and perspective shifts. You may release old identities that don't serve you, evaluate your beliefs, evaluate what you communicate, and what information shapes your outlook on life. There may be an instability here with Uranus retrograde in Gemini and how we interpret information. Now, Uranus retrograde in Taurus is a little bit different because now the focus is on stability, our values, finances, the food supply, money, and resources. There may be shakeups in the finances. We're seeing inflation rise to unbelievable heights. Things are getting way more expensive than they were before, and it's just increasing. We may reevaluate our values. Where are you resistant to change? Because Taurus is resistant to change. Taurus wants the same old, wanting to keep things as they are, not wanting to alter things around. Gemini is very different. Like, it likes the variety, likes the newness, likes the novelty. So where are you resistant to change, and where do you need to be open to change? Or Uranus is going to push you to be open to change. What unhealthy attachments must you release? It's very, very important. And in general, what are our beliefs? Are they hindering us or are they liberating us and pushing us forward? We need to allow the foundations of what we value to shift. Very, very important. We need also, because Uranus can be very busy energy. So that busyness is where we need to um do the self-care type things. Meditate, get out in nature, pray, bare feet on the grass, whatever it is. Calm down your nervous system. Now, Uranus retrograde in Gemini is a great time to reflect, to write your thoughts, to journal your beliefs and emotions and thoughts down on paper so that you can clearly see what changes that you need to make in your life. Step into the unknown, be willing to do that. And Uranus retrograde in general is a quiet inner rebellion. So, that is your astrology for the week of August 31st, 2025. I will see you in my next YouTube video, which at the time of recording this, I am about to film the video on Mercury in Scorpio in the birth chart, which is going to be very, very interesting to really delve into and discuss with you. So that video is coming out in a couple of days, so stay tuned for that video. Like this video, share it, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next one. Have a wonderful um, morning, afternoon, and evening, or evening, depends upon where you live in the world. And I will catch you next time. Bye for now.